So my name's James Williams. I'm one of the directors of AdAlta. I also represent Ewer Capital, which is the major shareholder of AdAlta. I guess on behalf of the board in Paul McClemmen's absence as chairman, I thank you all for coming. John and Brian have had to leave, but with the three guys here that we've spoken to, I think you'll appreciate just how deep an expertise we now have around this company and close to this company to help us guide through what is not an easy process in developing the drug to anything, but I think we've got a great platform to do so. We've heard mention today of how important people are in the process of developing these products, and in Sam's, the CEO you'll hear from, and Mick, they were the premise about which we invested in the first place. John Ballard, who was chairman at that stage, was also instrumental in guiding this company in its early stages. We now are a publicly listed company, and Sam is going to present the more investor-focused side of the story. So with that, thank you all for coming.
Thanks, James. So yes, like James mentioned, I'm the founding CEO of AdAlta. I've been with AdAlta since it started almost 10 years ago. Last year, we listed on the ASX, raising 10 million in an oversubscribed offer to take our lead candidate, AD114, into the clinic. So AD114 is in the area of fibrosis. We've heard a lot about that today. There is a high unmet medical need, and it is, I guess, a complicated disease, but we have a great team around us that can really help us navigate our way through what we need to do to get to the clinic, but also to get to a deal. And I guess what we haven't really talked about in a lot of detail is that the transactions in this space tend to be quite unique. Pharma invest in a fibrosis drug and it can be applied in multiple areas. We've talked about the lung, the eye and the kidney. And these deals that pharma are doing tend to be around 100 million up front for a fibrosis asset at phase 1 with 400 to 500 million in milestone payments. So with our IPO funding of 10 million, we'll be in the clinic by early 2018 and looking at the early commercialisation potential of this drug. We do have an experienced team around us. You've heard from Robert Peach, who joined our board in November, sold the company that he was last associated with for close to 8 billion, not quite, but just close. And we heard also from John Westwick and Brian Richardson, who have spent, well, Brian 42 years at Novartis. John has 13 positive proof of clinic products in the clinic in the area of pulmonary disease, so considerable drug development expertise. So you, James, from Ewer, are our major shareholder. They have about 54%. Our code is 1AD, and our share price is about 20 cents at the moment, giving us a market cap of approximately 20 million. So we've heard a lot about fibrosis today, how there is a considerable unmet medical need, and how we see in multiple areas the same pathways having an effect in a lot of these diseases. Our first indication is in the lung. Glenn Westall gave us a great summary of that there are 2 current products in this space, pirfenidone and nintedanib, and how they're really slowing the disease progression and having, a benefit for patients, but there is still a really unmet medical need in terms of delivering a product that can further assist patients. We heard from Erica Fletcher in terms of the eye fibrosis, with 50% of people going blind with wet AMD. We've got some great data in that space that Mick spoke about earlier today, showing that we're having both anti-fibrotic effects in the eye, reducing collagen, but also stopping leakage as well. We've recently published some liver data that Stuart mentioned in his note a couple of days ago. Again, very complicated disease, and one of the newer areas we're looking at is kidney fibrosis. And what we see in that space in all of these diseases is that our target CXCR4 is upregulated and that the iBody AD114 is having an effect. There is a global interest in fibrosis, and like I mentioned, the phase 1 partnerships in this space are pretty unbelievable. in that you see multiple acquisitions in both not only IPF but in NASH, kidney fibrosis, and they all tend to be around that space. The last two on this list are for, I guess, biological proteins, where we're seeing 100 million up front for a phase 1 asset. So in terms of AD114, and I guess since the IPO in August 2016, we've been progressing with AD114, completing manufacturing. In last month, we announced that we had orphan drug designation in the US, so an important milestone for us in that we took our data in the lung space to the FDA and demonstrated that we were having an anti-fibrotic and anti-inflammatory effect. We also demonstrated that we were having an effect that was quite different to the two approved drugs, in that we're very, very specifically targeting only diseased tissue and not normal tissue. So that orphan drug designation that came through in January is an important milestone that we've met. We kicked off our manufacturing with Fuji as soon as the IPO in August last year, and the Q1 will be reporting on achieving that milestone and I guess generating materials that we'll use for toxicology studies. The toxicology studies is an important milestone for AdAlta, showing that we have a safe profile for not only AD114 but also for the platform. And then in early 2018, moving into the clinic, doing a phase 1 study and potential of partnering with that lead candidate. And so in terms of the milestones that we've met, like I said, we've commenced manufacturing. We're demonstrating that we can, expand out the IPF portfolio of data. We've demonstrated in a model of NASH that we have an anti-fibrotic effect. With Erica Fletcher looking at the eye, we've also got additional data in that space. We heard from earlier today Glenn Wurstall, who's a clinician here in Melbourne, and we're working with the Alfred, looking at human tissue, trying to bridge that gap between animal models and the clinic with looking at diseased tissue and how we're having an effect on that. So really differentiating our product from what's already available. And so over the next 12 months, it will really be hitting milestones around manufacturing, additional fibrosis data, and those toxicology results. So I think one of the things that John Westwick highlighted just recently in his talk was, this platform has the ability to hit these undruggable targets that pharma have been working on. So GPCRs, G protein coupled receptors, and ion channels. And with the Biotechnology, that's really our goal, is to look at our lead candidate, which is also a GPCR target, but then to also do in-house pipeline development, looking at ion channels and GPCRs, differentiating ourselves from other antibody platforms, but then also looking at pharma and biotech partnerships where these companies have worked on these targets and not been able to drug them because they're difficult to access. And so AdAlta's business model is really to have our lead candidate, a pipeline of iBodies, and then our partnerships. And so when you look at those three key areas of fibrosis, you see multiple deals happening. You look at their next generation antibodies in terms of partnerships, and you see companies like Ablinks, who've got about a 700 million market cap in Europe, Argenx, 300 million market cap, and Pieris doing deals where they're getting upfront payments for research collaborations to look for novel binders to any target. But again, you see below that, people looking at targets like G protein coupled receptors and doing collaborative deals where they're looking for new drugs to these difficult to access targets. And these are the three areas that we really see AdAlta playing in. So fibrosis, lead AD114, a next generation antibody platform, but more specifically these hard to access targets. And so in terms of being able to take these iBodies forward, we have an amazing board and myself and Mick Foley in terms of the management team. Paul McClellan unfortunately couldn't be here today. John Chiplin, who has considerable antibody experience, being the previous CEO of Arana. and as I mentioned, Robert, who's just recently joined us. We have a number of clinicians, David McGibney, Steve Felstead from Pfizer, both from Pfizer, who recently joined us. And then we've heard earlier today from Brian Richardson and John Westwick, both ex-Novartis and both considerable drug development expertise, as well as Mick Foley, our CSO. And so we have an internationally recognised scientific advisory board that are keen to help us take 8114 and the platform through this drug development process and have had considerable experience in doing this before. And so in terms of a summary, AdAlta investment summary, we really have this powerful platform technology that can be used to identify eye bodies to treat a number of different diseases. Our initial focus is on fibrosis with the lead candidate 8114. Like we've heard today, it's a very complex disease, but our first indication that we'll look at is IPF and then in the eye. And we've got some great preclinical data really showing that we're having an effect in these models. With significant data, both anti-fibrotic and anti-inflammatory. This lead 8114 provides an early commercialisation opportunity, and we have an experienced team, board, scientific advisory board to get us there. The IPO funding of 10 million will drive us achieving that and getting into the clinic in early 2018. So since the IPO, we've really demonstrated that we have met milestones, and we hope to continue to do that to drive the value for shareholders. David.
I just thought of something you did last year, which
Yes.
would be good for you to refresh us on. It's the German company.
Yes. XL Proteins.
Yeah.
So we announced a collaboration late last year with a group called XL Proteins. They have a half-life extension technology. So we add this technology on the end of 8114 to extend its plasma half-life. It has no effect on the binding of the drug to its target, but essentially increases its ability in the plasma. So potentially as a patient, they're getting less and less injections. So the half-life of that drug is improved.
Does that affect tox? Do you have to do, is that done
Yeah,
separately?
So we will do the toxicology studies with the half-life extension technology. It's being manufactured by Fuji with the pacillation technology on it now. It's an inert protein in that it's prolines and alanines. It's not going to be, or unlikely to be immunogenic, unlikely to have a tox like the antibody, I-body. It's non-immunogenic.
What improvements does it offer?
Yeah, so we're just about to start those non-human primate studies, but at the moment we're seeing a probably 20 to 30-fold increase in half-life with the half-life extension technology.
And that's consistent with what they've reported in other literature, so yeah, it's a fairly repeatable effect.
And the benefit of using a technology like that is it's recombinant. So, you know, recombinant proteins will add a PEG, but it's a chemical coupling. With this technology, we're basically making one protein, recombinantly making it, and then purifying it, and we have our final product.
So with doing partnership deals outside of your core programs,
Yes.
is that something you'd expect to start doing after you finish the phase 1 safety studies?
I mean, I think the phase 1, I think the toxicology studies in non-human primates as well as the phase 1 safety studies really show that this platform is safe. And I think those two things are really important from partnering, whether you need the phase 1 safety or the toxicology studies. I'll find out when I start talking to partners, but they're two key items that a lot of pharma and biotech want to see. Some will potentially go earlier, some, you know, so we'll have that data at the end of the year. I'm starting to talk to partners at the moment, and they're really key milestones that they want to see achieved.
But the phase 1 data will be next year, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
I seem to see a slight conflict in one sense. You're talking about partnering, and that's a key part of your strategy.
Yes.
Yet one of your board members expressed to you this morning that you shouldn't partner early. And I'm wondering how this is working out in terms of both.
Shouldn't have said that.
No, I mean, I think for us,
What's early?
yeah. I mean, for us as a company, it's all about creating shareholder value. And so, you know, what at what point do we partner will depend on the available cash and the partners at the table. And as a board, we'll make a decision at that point in time. And you know, if the value inflection point for a fibrosis asset is considerable at phase 1, and we have an opportunity to do that, I think the board will consider the offers that are on the table. If we have an ability to raise funding and take this to a $8 billion acquisition, raising how much? $800 million. You know, if we had that sort of opportunity, then you know.
Is she serious?
Yeah, why not? Like, if you've got those opportunities in front of you and it creates a lot of value for shareholders, what was it, a 40 times premium? You know, we'll take those opportunities if they're there. Why wouldn't we?